Module 2.14. Confront your biggest fears. So as we come at the end of the masterclass and we touch about, the topics on building the trust, building safety, and embodying vulnerability as a team leader, I think behind all of that are very strong emotions that also can affect a team in a good and bad way, is also the fears. And I address this module especially for team leaders to talk and think about the fears that are associated to the challenge of building a studio and launching a game. We know the rate of success is quite low, and there are many things at risk and many fears during the journey of development. And this module is particularly to talk about confronting your biggest fears. I was really inspired by this talk from Tim Ferriss of why you should define your fears instead of your goals. And basically what he's doing in this TED Talk is about doing the fear setting exercise. Because a lot of times we think we have goals that are conscious, but a lot of our actions are driven by our fears. And sometimes when these fears are not put into light, we are more driven by our fears than we are actually taking ownership of our actions and why we are motivated to do certain things. So I want to encourage here to do the exercise, the fear setting exercise of what are the biggest fears for you or for your studio, the biggest things that can happen and that you think about make you concerned. And with this model is quite interesting because you can create a list of what if something happens, what if I do this, what if I fail, what if I don't launch this game, what if I, fire this person, or what if I hire this person, and what wrong can happen. And you know what I'm talking about because we think all the time about all the scenarios and all the things that can go wrong. So why not making it very clear and write it down to put it into reality? And I want to share an example here of some of my fears when I built the studio last year. And one of my fears that I've always been very in any games I have done, but it's one that comes really with even deeply in questioning my own profession, is the game we are making fun. So the game is not fun. So what to do with this fear? And going a bit deeper in this fear, I realized, well, there may be things to look at, but let's go through all the fears here. Second fear is we don't have the competencies to make that game. And that is one that is more present with the studio I build, because I make conscious choice of building the studio with a certain composition, certain skills, certain experience. And maybe I did big mistakes here and I don't have a team that is, skilled, qualified to make that type of game. The game doesn't have a big audience. That is a very common, actually, issue and risk that can happen. It's like we are just making a very niche game. The game cannot go a global launch. And what is behind this fear is basically I will be judged for this failure. So if I don't globally launch this game, if I don't launch, I will be judged for not succeeding in this industry, despite all even the talks I'm doing now about creating a great team, a great studio with a good culture. I would love to associate it, of course, with a success, but I know the reality that it may not always go with it on the first trial. So all these are my fears. They were my fears last year. Some of them are still here. And what I decided to do is to map them with some solution. What can I do now about these fears, and are they real? So the game is not fun. Well, I can test the game ASAP. Not having the competence to make the game, I can test the game ASAP. Not having a big audience, it's again testing the game. About all the things that can prevent the game from launching is to work with mitigation plans. And I do that all the time. So I write down my fear and then I make the plans okay, what should I do now to either prevent it or to accept that if it happens, am I okay with what would happen after? And the last one is more personal work, like the fear of being judged for not launching a game or having a success on the first year. This is more reflection work for myself. What does it say about me if I don't manage to launch and succeed on the first year? Is it that I miss of self-confidence? Is it something that I'm defining too much myself by the success of the games, where maybe the success is somewhere else? And this is more personal work for me to do. But to me, it was a very healthy exercise to just write down all these fears and own them and look at them and confront them, instead of having them always in the back of my head and just doing things here and there, in panic, just to try to make up for these fears. So take the time to journal and write down all your fears and what do you want to do about them now or later? Or are you okay with the outcome of what may happen indeed if these fears actually happen?